And here we are again, my brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ at Living Hope Community Church, Iglesia Esperanza Viviente. Welcome to another study. So thankful that you're here. Today we find ourselves in the book of Acts, chapter 26. We've seen this repeating cycle over so many verses, so many chapters. And today we're going to watch again as the Apostle Paul, under arrest, held by the Roman guard in Caesarea, delivers another defense. Today his defense is going to be before King Agrippa. You remember that Felix, the tribunal leader in Caesarea, Felix had Paul come before him and talk to him. Felix made no decision, left Paul in jail. 2 years passed. Festus came along. Festus doesn't know what to do. Paul has appealed to Caesar, which means it's Festus' obligation to send Paul to Rome. But to send him to Rome for what? What did he do? Festus doesn't have an accusation. Well, King Agrippa shows up, and so Festus is punting, basically. Let me give this situation to King Agrippa. King Agrippa, you listen to this guy, and you see if you can find anything wrong. What I need is a charge worthy of capital punishment to send him to Rome. The Jews want him dead. Just understand that these Roman officials are kind of being blackmailed by the Jewish leadership of Jerusalem. If they upset the Jewish leadership in Jerusalem, the report's going to go to Rome that they can't keep their backyard in order, so to speak. They're not doing well as leaders. That's the last thing they want. What do the Jewish leaders want? They want Paul dead. Okay, so in order to placate them, well, Felix did nothing. Festus just delayed and did nothing. Now we're going to see what King Agrippa does. Paul has to go to Rome. Jesus told him he was going to go to Rome. But on what charge? Well, let's look at it. I remind you at the end of 25, where Festus says, For it seems to me unreasonable in sending a prisoner not to indicate the charges against him. Again, they don't have anything they can accuse Paul of doing wrong. The Jews are all upset. The Jews want to kill him. They're trying to placate the Jews, but what did this guy do? Off to chapter 26. So Agrippa, here comes the king, said to Paul, You have permission to speak for yourself. So here we go. Agrippa, Bernice, they've come in with great pomp and circumstance. They've displayed their great power, their wealth, their authority. And now here is this little guy named Paul that they've had under arrest now for years. He's going to do it again. But I want you to see something really critical in this. When Paul delivers this message to Agrippa, he's basically teaching us how to witness. First thing he does, well, he's very polite. Then Paul stretched out his hand. He made his defense. I consider myself fortunate that it is before you, King Agrippa, I'm going to make my defense today against all the accusations of the Jews, especially because you're familiar with all the customs and controversies of the Jews, and therefore I beg you to listen to me patiently. Paul understands that Agrippa knows these Jews want to kill him over theological things that really have no consequence in terms of a criminal offense. All right, so here he goes. Look, I'm glad to be in front of you, and I just want you to listen to me. Here he goes. My manner of life from my youth, spent from the beginning among my own nation and in Jerusalem, is known by all the Jews. Okay, point number one. Listen, Agrippa, I grew up in Jerusalem. It's my nation. These guys know me, okay? I'm not a rebel that's out there doing something that, everybody wants to stop because I'm just some sort of wild card out in the wind. No, these guys know me. They watched me grow up. The manner of life from my youth is well known to them. All right? My accusers, which I'm sure there are some high-level Jewish accusers in the room listening to this as well, they're standing right here and they understand who I am. Paul begins in the past, way in the past, all the way to his youth. And he says they have known for a long time. In other words, they're culpable for this. They understand my upbringing, okay? They have known for a long time, if they are willing to testify, which, by the way, they're probably not, that according to the strictest party of our religion, I have lived as a Pharisee. Okay, Agrippa, you need to understand something. I used to be one of them. Okay, these accusers of mine, they know all about me. They know how I was raised. They know what I believed. They know how I lived. And I was in the strictest party. I was a Pharisee. He starts with the past. He talks about where he came from. All right. Then what happens? And now I stand here on trial. Why are we accusing Paul? Here it is. Because of my hope in the promise made by God to our fathers. Now, think about this, church. What is the hope that was made by God to the fathers of Israel? Well, namely, that a Messiah would come. That all nations would be blessed through Abraham, right? That there was coming a Redeemer, a Messiah, the Christ. He would come, all right? I'm on trial because I hoped in the promise made by God. I'm hoping in the same thing these guys say they're hoping in, but now I'm arrested for it. Okay, well, let him explain. To which our 12 tribes hope to attain as they earnestly worship night and day. And for this hope I am accused by the Jews, O king. Hey, King Agrippa, just understand, it's not just me. I mean, the 12 tribes of Israel have this same hope that a Messiah is coming. They earnestly worship night and day. And because I have this hope, these Jewish leaders are accusing me. Now, this is just crazy on its face, right? I mean, Agrippa might just say, well, why would they accuse you of doing something wrong when you're hoping in the same exact thing that they're hoping in, when you come from the same exact place where they are? I mean, the defense is really beautiful. I mean, he should appeal to Agrippa's logic very easily right here, and all these things are very provable, very well known. Why is it thought incredible by any of you that God raises the dead? Oh, now we'd shift. You see, while these Jewish leaders are telling us we need to wait for the Messiah, in fact, they did see the Messiah, but they crucified him. I used to be one like that believed that Jesus was worthless, that he was starting a sect, that this idea that he was alive had to be completely false, and I was going around killing Christians. He'll get to that in a second. But why do you guys think that God doesn't have the power to intervene in time and space and resurrect somebody? How do you think God works? I mean, he created us. He knows us. He's the one that formed us. We have life because of him. Why is it so impossible for you to think that God can regenerate life in a dead body and bring it back to life? This is where Paul starts to shift to the idea that Jesus is the Christ, that Jesus has risen from the dead, which is something that his Jewish accusers will not receive. They will not accept that. They want to justify the fact that they killed Jesus. They want to justify themselves to say that Paul is wrong. What's the pattern of Paul's testimony? Let me tell you about my past. Let me tell you about what I believe. And look at this. I myself was convinced that I ought to do many things in opposing the name of Jesus of Nazareth. I used to be just like those guys across the room you see over there, Agrippa, that hate me, arrested, or wanted me arrested, wanted me killed. I tried to oppose Jesus too. And I did so in Jerusalem. I not only locked up many of the saints in prison after receiving authority from the chief priests, but when they were put to death, I cast my vote against them. I used to be just like these guys that hate me now. This is a perfect setup. When we witness, when we tell other people about how Jesus has impacted us, one of the things we can do that's very effective is to tell them what our life before Christ was like and what kind of impact he had on our lives. Paul is telling them, look, I used to kill Christians. I used to vote against them when we were deciding whether or not to kill them. I said, kill them. All right? I tried to oppose this Jesus. I tried to fight against him. And I thought I was right, just like these guys think they're right. And I punished them often in all the synagogues, and I tried to make them blaspheme. What does that mean? I tried to get them to renounce their faith and curse Jesus. And in raging fury against them, I persecuted them even to foreign cities. Look, I went all the way to Damascus to try to stop this sect that Jesus created. And I thought I was right, and I pursued them with a vengeance. In this connection, I journeyed to Damascus with the authority and commission of the chief priests. These guys across the room that are accusing me, that want to kill me, they're the same guys that sent me to Damascus to kill Christians. But you see, Agrippa, something has happened to me that you need to understand. Yeah, I used to be just like these guys. And can you imagine Paul at this stage of his life admitting how hard he was against Jesus and how much he fought against Jesus and how much he hated Jesus and hated the followers of Jesus? It had to be like an arrow piercing his heart now that he knows the truth. Well, as the passage moves forward, at midday, O king, he's on his way to Damascus, at midday, O king, I saw on the way a light from heaven brighter than the sun that shone around me and those who journeyed with me. What's the introduction to this section of his testimony? I met Jesus. Okay, he starts by outlining the past and showing all the ways that the past relates into the story, but now he's taking his hatred of Jesus and saying, look, on the road to Damascus, Jesus intercepted me. He interrupted my life. I went from somebody that thought Jesus was a lie to somebody that saw him. Listen to this. This bright light comes, right? Now Paul says, and when we had all fallen to the ground, I heard a voice saying to me in the Hebrew language, which is absolutely Jewish, right? I'm going to relate to you. Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Just a little side note for us, church. When somebody's hurting you as a follower in Jesus, Jesus looks at that circumstance as somebody hurting him. Saul is persecuting Christians, killing Christians. Jesus says, not why are you persecuting them, my followers. No, he says, why are you persecuting me? To hurt my people is to hurt me. It is hard for you to kick against the goads. And just understand this briefly. When an ox was harnessed and ready to pull the plow through the field, a young ox would oftentimes kick a lot, try to get out of the yoke, try to get away from the circumstance. And you know, an ox is a big animal. An ox is something that could really disrupt your life if he decided to, right? Well, they used to put goads, they called them, which were sort of like things with spikes in them behind the oxen. So when the oxen kicked, they would shove their foot back into that spike. And it didn't take long for the ox to submit, right? To become docile, to be able to pull the plow without kicking, all right? Well, that's the illustration. Hey, Saul, you're kicking against the truth. You're fighting with all your power to deny me. You're fighting with all your power to kill the people that love me. Why are you doing that? Why are you persecuting me? Imagine the shock in Saul's heart and mind. Jesus is real. All of a sudden, his reality has changed completely. Now he sees the living Lord Jesus. He knows that this bright light blinding him on the road to Damascus is not some sort of fantasy or not some sort of a mirage. It's real. And I said, who are you, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. Jesus identifies himself to Paul. You remember this story. We've heard this story now. This is the third time. We heard it in Acts chapter 9 when it really happened. And then we heard it in his testimony before. Now we hear it in his testimony again. When we tell other people about Jesus, what do? We tell them about our past. And then we tell them about the experience of meeting Jesus and being transformed by Jesus. That's what Paul is doing before Agrippa. Jesus says to Paul, "Rise and stand on your feet, for I have appeared to you for this purpose." Why am I showing myself to you, Paul? To appoint you as a servant. I have something for you to do. That's something Jesus has for all of us. I'm appointing you as a servant, and I'm appointing you as a witness to the things in which you have seen me and to those in which I will appear to you. You need to tell people what's happened in your life by my action. You know me now. You've seen me. Witness to it. Tell people what happened to you. Tell people about your encounters with me. Okay? Paul is probably shocked and in stunned silence as he listens to Jesus tell him that. But as he delivers this to Agrippa, imagine the impact it's having. Delivering you from your people and from the Gentiles to whom I am sending you. Look at this. Jesus, as he talks to Paul on the road to Damascus, is saying, I'm going to deliver you from these Jews. And I'm going to deliver you from the Gentiles. And I'm going to send you to the Gentiles. I'm going to send you there. Well, of course, Paul's whole life after knowing Jesus was to bring the gospel to the Gentiles. I want you to open their eyes, Paul. This is your mission. This is my mission, your mission too, to open their eyes, to use our testimony to tell people about the reality of Jesus Christ and about his love for us and how he took us through this transformative process. I want you to open their eyes so that they may turn from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God. We are going to transform people by you delivering the gospel to them, and my Holy Spirit will work through you to bring people to the reality that I am the Christ, I am the Messiah, I have risen from the dead, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and a place among those who are sanctified by faith in me. I want you to be a participant in bringing people into my kingdom. That's where we're going to stop today, because Paul goes on from here. But I just want you to see this while we stop. What happened in your past? What was your life like before you knew Christ? What was that transformation like when you came to the realization that Christ is alive, that Jesus is the Messiah, that he is real, and you met him? And have you received his ministerial calling on your life to open people's eyes wherever you are, to love people like he loves us, to deliver the message of his transformation in your life to those who don't know him, that he might allow you to participate with him as other people learn about Christ. We're going to see where this goes tomorrow. I hope you can come. But for today, God bless you, church, and serve him well.
Who is it who for sinners shed his blood, and now for cleansing all can plunge beneath that flood? It's Jesus. But do you know who he is? He's the image of the invisible God, and he's the brightness of his glory, the first, the last, the future, the past. He is God.